Another stacked lineup on InGoal Radio, the podcast, presented by thehockeyshop.com. The Hockey Shop, source for sports Langley. Over at the Hockey Shop, they are getting things going, really turning things over. Stuff comes in, stuff goes out. It's very quickly. We've got our gear segment brought to you by the Hockey Shop. The Vizual Edge Pro Reads Stop Goaltending Parents segment with David Hutchison. And Sensorina feature interview, we are highlighting a newly turned professional, Darren Millard, along with Kevin Woodley. How are you, buddy?
I'm good, Darren. I'm good, my friend. Yeah, we got Ian Shane on the podcast today, and while that may not be a household name to many, I expect we'll hear it more and more as he turned pro this year. He's starting with Kansas City in the ECHL, a MVP of the ECAC, a Ken Dryden Goalie of the Year award winner at Cornell. So, and a fascinating guy who leaves no stone unturned. So lots of good stuff in this conversation.
Hey, did you hear Anthony Stolarz postgame the other night? It got a lot of traction around the hockey world outside the goalie crease.
Yeah, probably because somebody in the crease actually spoke up for a change, right?
Right.
And that's the... Man, I don't know where that line is because I've never been in an NHL room outside of being an impartial journalist observer. Well, I guess part of that career is covering Roberto Luongo as captain and putting the C not on his chest because you can't, but having him painted on his mask and calling him the captain. That was the biggest issue. I can tell you for sure. Ian Clark was the goalie coach at the time here. He told them not to do it. Because as much as Luongo was the leader of that team, it puts him in the position to do exactly what Stolarz did, which is judge the guys in front of him. And if you judge the guys in front of you honestly, I'm not sure that goes over well coming from the goaltender. Because they can make a bunch of mistakes that don't end up in the net because you pick them up. You make one mistake and it's in that. I just feel like the spotlight is bright enough already. And being put in a position to answer as candidly as Anthony did post-game, just brightens it that much more. So hopefully he's up for it because, there'll be a lot of, there's the potential for a lot of side-eye if the next time he's between the pipes, it doesn't go so well on him versus on the team.
It's a no-win when you answer questions like that. But I also feel...
Great way of putting it.
It's hypocritical as heck to be judging a goaltender for saying what Anthony Stolarz offered and not judging a forward or defenseman for evaluating their team. Well, what's the difference? They're both playing for the same club.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. It's not fair. It's just kind of the way it is, right? That candidness just inevitably, like I said, it just inevitably brightens the spotlight. And it's not like Anthony Stolarz can't handle a bright spotlight. He's the number one goaltender with the Toronto Maple Leafs, right? And probably some frustration there on his part because, hey, guess what? He got run again. And as much as I don't think he was critiquing the team for allowing that to happen, certainly when he got run by a charging forward was different than the one that I hate is when your defenseman deposits a guy on your lap and it's just like an MCL waiting to pop. And there was one of those incidents as well in that game. So, I understand the frustration. I don't think goalies shouldn't be allowed to do it. And yet I've lived long enough to know it usually doesn't go the way we hoped.
Have we seen a bit of a turn in officials calling goalie interference on plays that are aggressively attacking the net? I feel like I've seen more penalties lately.
Yeah, maybe that's because everybody's attacking the net. And so good. I'm glad that they're calling that penalty because there is nothing worse. I think it's one of the league's biggest failures when it comes to protecting goaltenders is when referees, and I think video review made this even more prominent, referees always used to say to the goalie, well, if the puck had gone in, I would have disallowed it, rather than, hey, that's a goalie interference penalty. You're not dissuading the action, right? So, and I think video replays made that to the nth degree. I don't even have to call goalie interference. If the puck goes in, we get to review it and see if there was contact. There's been, it feels like, way more contact. We've already seen goalies go down, not necessarily because of that contact, but it's only a matter of time. The crease crashing, it's taught every day in practice. Stolarz got run and said we need to do more of the same at the other end, right? So this is the nature of the game. Traffic around the crease has never been more difficult. It's the high speed off the rush that always looks scarier. And I think where we could see more injuries, and it sure feels like we have a lot more of that. Guys just putting their head down and cutting through.
Well, they're told, get to the net,
100%,
get to the net, get to the net. And
right. And
I hardly even fault them, even though it would drive me absolutely out of my mind if you were standing there. But they're being instructed to get to that front of the net.
Yeah, and sometimes they get rewarded. I think it was a game you had. It might have been against Dustin Wolf. Jack Eichel cutting through the crease, breakaway, puts the puck and Dustin Wolf's left pad into the net. I would have challenged that. Even with the puck, you can't push the pad over the line. Like, I think that would have held up to a challenge. We had a long discussion about that.
And I said, if it was a rebound play or a scramble in front of the net, I don't think that play would have counted. But because he was in the act of shooting and touched the pad and pushed the puck in the pad across the ice line, I thought it was okay.
By the rules, it's actually the opposite. We saw it in the Vancouver game against Charlie Lindgren covers a puck in the crease, but Evander Kane's stick is already there as, hey, guess what? Part of a crease collision. And he literally, with his stick, with the puck under Charlie's glove, lifts the glove with his stick and pries the puck out. And in the ensuing scramble, the puck ends up going in the net. And the definition shared by the NHL was that you can move the goalie's equipment in a scramble to create a loose puck. And if the puck goes in as a result of that later, it counts. You just can't move the goalie's equipment over the goal line. And so by the letter of the law, as much as Eichel has the puck, he also pushes the puck and the pad into the net. And Wolf has the pad there. Like, he's in position to make the save. The pad's got enough leverage to stop the puck. So it's been really interesting. It's not just that one. There's been a couple that have gone the goaltender's way that I don't think should have. Loose puck at the side of the net. Vancouver against Chicago. Somebody's going to knock on the door and take away my goalie union card. But I think it's Tyler Bertuzzi whacking away at a loose puck. And Lankinen loses his cover. Like, he's not able to hold the puck on against the post. The puck goes in. They say that whacking at the puck was goalie interference. But if you actually look at the play, he didn't have his inside edge. And so he was off balance anyways. And I don't know that he would have been able to hold it. So if that's not a goal, then certainly pushing the pad over the goal line, in my opinion. And by the way I'm reading the rules, would have got called back too. But it's, again, we leave so much gray area as a league in this, and with coaches wanting guys to go there, part of that gray area is allowing more collisions than I think goalies are comfortable with, and we'll probably see more guys get injured in a year where we're already seeing teams dig deep down the depth chart, and we're 2 weeks in?
I can't remember which game it was, but I did see a player called for goalie interference for making contact with the netminder on a breakaway. I hadn't seen that before.
I've been concussed playing 3-on-3 doing that
on a breakaway.
Guy came in so hard, cut through the crease, and he was so in tight that his elbow went right across the side of the head.
Wow. Hey, is a goalie with puck battles, is that considered a skill? Is that an area that you can train, that you can get better at? Because reaching for those pucks, battling for those loose pucks in front of the net, you can cut down on chances significantly if you're able to retrieve those. But if you're not able to or willing to just roll up your sleeves and get after that puck, it can make life difficult for you.
I think it's a fine line between chasing them at the expense of coverage. I remember Michael DiPietro. We've got a drill up at InGoalMag.com with Michael DiPietro when he was with the Canucks, and it's just him by himself working on a little sort of down low crease movement with a puck out in front of him, and slide it back and forth on the knees, stop, and then being able to reach out, grab that puck, and pull it in without breaking the seal along the ice.
I love that.
That's the risk. The risk is as soon as you sprawl out, like Charlie Lindgren, and like, to me, again, I didn't love that call, and then I saw how the rule was written and realized it was the right call, even if I still hated it. Like, he extends forward to cover that puck in a scramble with his glove. He gets his glove on it, gets pried out. But because he extended himself like that, he's got no net coverage. Like, he's prone. He's fully, belly flop forward to cover a puck. So it's a real fine line. You have to pick your moments. When do you sort of give up your coverage to swallow up that puck? And when do you just stay home because, okay, it's crazy, it's a battle, but at least it's not going through me if I build a wall
it's like
a couple
race
feet
for the puck
behind you. Yeah.
Are you better off to sit back?
You better make sure you win it. Let's put it that way. Yeah. And in that case, actually, like, as I discovered in that one, and like, again, like if you're Charlie Lindgren, you're fuming because I hated the call in real time until I saw the explanation and realized that maybe by the letter of the law it was okay. Like, there's nothing worse than feeling like you have your glove on a puck and somebody knocks it out from under you and it's allowed to continue. So he actually won that race. I thought Ty should go to the goalie, like Ty goes to the runner in baseball, but I don't think it does.
And it feels like every time that there's one of those 50-50 plays, the puck ends up in the back of the net.
Well, I mean,
you know it right away. As soon as you're in that, like, oh, this is going the wrong direction.
Well, and I mean, that's the reality. As soon as you pitch forward to cover it, like, you've lost your ability to move. Like, you're prone. And so that's the balance. But in some of those battles, like just reaching out a stick and trying to pull it towards you, that's not going to be enough. And the desperation, you just want to, we talk about controlling play, like not allowing loose pucks around your crease. It's tough. It's part of the decision-making process. I would encourage people to go find that DiPietro drill. It's a good one.
Before we get to the pro returns on tap in this week's gear segment, what's happening over at the Hockey Shop?
Well, they've got a ton of pro returns. If you follow their social media, and if you don't, I would highly advise you do, because they also go over, as much as we do here with our gear segment, new gear, they highlight stuff that's coming in. And I got to say, it's been remarkable to watch the transformation of the industry, how much new equipment is coming in, even in September, October. We've got a new launch from Brian's coming up soon. We've got a new stick, sort of holiday season stick from Bauer coming in. There's always new product coming in. This time of year, added bonus, pro returns. We get into it on True, but they've also got a great selection of CCM pro returns. You get a unique chance at times to try out different styles, different shaped shoulders. Trigger grips are quite often part of the equation. And as we find out this week with the True Pro returns, you might even be able to grab one that belongs to a future first ballot Hall of Famer. Oh, baby. There is a large variety of shoulder shapes on our laps right now. And some of the biggest names, I see a 3-time Vezina Trophy winner, might have a Hart Trophy now, kind of a dead giveaway there. One of the GOATs, like, he's flirting with that, what do they call that? With the 4 statues and the faces and the
goalie Mount Rushmore?
Mount Rushmore. Thank you, Cameron. It's been a long morning. There's a 2-time Cup winner. Man, there's a lot of talent on my lap right now.
It's true.
Oh, nicely done. Welcome back to the Hockey Shop Source for Sports, where we have the pro returns from True, including one that I'm sure InGoal magazine readers are going to recognize, the very unique shoulder shape on the top of the paddle of one recently retired Marc-Andre Fleury. And of course, if you're an InGoal magazine subscriber, InGoalMag.com, you've seen Fleury demonstrate on video to InGoal why he switched to this and how it helps him get his blocker sealed in a butterfly. That's the biggest reason. So you've got that video at InGoalMag.com. We've got some unique ones here from Kevin Lankinen.
Yes.
Connor Hellebuyck. I talked about 3-time Vezina Trophy winner and a Hart Trophy.
Yes.
UC Saros. And this one will be popular because even though he never actually used True, or that I'm aware of in a game, he switched from CCM to Bauer this season. This is the Bobrovsky paddle shape that everyone wants, and that is Bobrovsky's name on the shaft. Cam, where'd you get all these great pro returns from True? I'm guessing from True. Good question, Kev. This is why I'm the journalist, buddy. This is why I'm the journalist. Hard-hitting questions.
Did you get these from True? Yes, it's true. I got them from True.
Good job, Kev. So walk me through, outside some of the unique, like great chance to try some different shapes. We hear a lot about Bob and his. We hear a lot about people shaving theirs down to try and be like him. Don't shave anything down. Just get one of his sticks. So
So there's multiple lines that are crossed, like in terms of for like different versions of the stick. I mean, we have a 9x3, we have a 9x4.
Hazardous 9x4.
Yeah.
It is what you see, what you get, because quite often at the pro level, they get skinned as the latest, but they have old style preferences.
There's some wacky things going on here, and
so
I think
you may not know what you're getting.
To a little bit of a degree, and I think the best highlight of that would actually be what I'm holding right here in Connor's stick. I mean, a guy to use things that aren't necessarily what they look like right 100% off the bat, citing his pads in particular. This would go for the stick as well. This feels like a sandwich of their old like Hair Trigger 6.0 sticks. Like there's a lot going on in here. I mean, it takes a little bit of a deeper dive, and that might be something that you would, between him and his actual stick manufacturer itself. But that said, it's definitely different. I can't compare this to anything else that's on the wall as of currently right now.
So lots of different colors, lots of different
oh my goodness,
custom options.
Stick. Look at that.
That's pretty clean. I like that.
And a little bit of that shorter shaft too as well. 24-inch paddle for those that are actually super, super curious. There are some various different paddle heights in here, and that is going to be player-to-player dependent. There's not a lot of consistency here in that sense. In terms of overall feel-wise in general, again, as what they are listed as a starting point, I can give you a bit of a generalization, but being the inherent nature of pro returns, yes, there are going to be some different materials and different feels than you would find off a standard stick off the wall in the comparable line.
Now, pro returns. We've been down this path before, but let's remind our audience, you're saving money. It's cheaper than buying a 9x4 hazardous off the rack new, but does not come with a warranty.
That's correct.
Just like the NHL guys. You break it, you bought it.
Well, you've already bought it, and then you break it. But that's, it doesn't matter. That's okay. So if you have some more questions about them, you can give me a call, 604-589-8299, or 1-800-567-7790. Or check them out at thehockeyshop.com. However, there are some various different curves here. We can try our best to kind of compare it to, what else is stock on the wall. There are some custom curves here for sure. So, yeah, if you want to chat more about it.
This is one of the ones where, like, Cam will help you out to find one that you like. But, man, if you got a chance to come in here, I could spend all day just going through the stick rack with the pro returns they have. There's some fun stuff in here.
He's already made a mess of the stick rack.
We got to ask Kevin Lankinen about this unique. Kind of reminds me a little bit of like Philip Grubauer has one of these that we've also got at InGoalMag.com about sort of the staggered inner paddle. So just some great stuff here, and your chance to own the same stick the pros use at the Hockey Shop, source for sports.
That's pretty good. You could almost be a collector, like somebody that's just loves their hockey gear with like jerseys or pictures. If you get a Fleury stick,
I mean, and especially that one, right? Because again, refer to InGoalMag.com. Like, we have video of Marc-Andre Fleury explaining the unique shoulder shape that he adopted in the final year and a half of his career. That's on that true pro return at the Hockey Shop source for sports, and how he got the idea from Carey Price. And so another good video at InGoal Mag. So if you watch that one and you're like, I think that would help me, you could go stock up on Marc-Andre Fleury Pro Return True sticks. Now, also, I'm with you, Darren. Like, if you think you're going to see Marc-Andre Fleury at any point, like, to have one of his twigs, actual made-for-him twigs, and get a little scribble on there, like, that's the kind of stuff that ends up on the wall in the office, for sure. I mean, one of the all-time greats.
I've been working on my sticks with a saw.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
A little home repair.
Cutting down the shoulders, putting in trigger grips where I could. It's harder now with the sticks than it was with the foam core and even way back when with some of the wood ones. But it's unique. It's fun. I'm not an expert yet, but I've become more, let's say, adventurous with it.
Okay, so what do the guys in the room think when they see us? Are any of the other goalies seeing your inventions?
Oh, I have a buddy who we were both rec league, and he calls me Frankenstein.
Oh, okay, see, that's not a bad nickname to have. Yeah, there's a lot of guys that wear that with pride in our industry.
Your Frankenstein sticks, and every time one breaks, he's like, "That's because you're sawing." I'm like, "It wasn't even where it broke." So, but I've been trying everything. I've tried the Bobrovsky, really slanted shoulder.
They've got those at the Hockey Shop.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
And I've done a couple of trigger grips. So yeah.
I'm just, trying. The word is steep, not slanted. Steep shoulders. Now, I have a couple questions here. Having broken more sticks than I care to admit, even though I use my warm-up stick. That's right, folks. There is nothing worse than carbon fiber slivers.
Yes.
How do you wear gloves when you handle these things, or when you're using power tools? And I ask this as someone who's not allowed to use power tools for fear of trips to the emergency room due to my own incompetence. Does it cut clean, or do you have to worry about the slivers and then get some tape on there quick?
Oh, I have to worry about slivers, but I try and keep my hands clear, and then I'm taping it immediately. And if I don't cut all the way, I've got a pair of pliers there that I just snap it and then file it down.
All right, we're gonna be doing you're gonna be like Tim the Tool Man Taylor.
I love it.
We're gonna be tool time with Darren. How to grind down your sticks.
It's one of my favorite things. I've sewn up my upper body gear so far this year. I patched my pants this year with patches and glues.
You are the Ryan Miller of the InGoal Radio podcast. I
enjoy it. I enjoy getting deep into it. Our equipment staff is amazing because I'll say I need a needle, and they'll give me a needle and thread.
Oh, do you get the big? Yeah. Big, it's like with a C-curved needle. Yeah, like a hook needle, but it's like I feel like it's not a half a centimeter thick, but it sure. So I remember the first time one of the equipment guys shared one of those with me to repair something, and I was like, this looks like something out of a horror movie. You sew things with this?
And you realize really quickly, it's great. I fixed my blocker because it was coming separated just from going paddle down. Sewed that up. It's not pretty, but it's fun.
It's Frankenstein, baby. Darren Frankenstein Millard, new nickname.
I enjoy doing it. That's our gear segment this week. Let's get over to Vizual Edge Pro Reads. Talking to Dustin Wolf, but before we get to that, a message from Vizual Edge.
Yeah, well, Pro Reads is all about seeing the game better, and Vizual Edge is all about seeing the game and the puck better. It is a great tool to do just that. It's a cognitive tool. It's a vision tool. That's why goalie coaching greats like Mitch Korn asks his goalies to use Vizual Edge, both to assess where their vision is at when they first come to him, and then to go out improving it. Jeff Glass of the Anaheim Ducks, Justin Peters of the Ottawa Senators, coaches know it helps their goalies see the puck better. As Kazimir Kaskasuo said, if you're not training your eyes, you are falling behind, and there is no better tool to do it with than Vizual Edge. Just ask Jordan Binnington. Uses the game day drills every game before heading to the rink. It's a combination of recognition, reaction, and focus that activates my brain and eyes to feel ready for what's to come. And of course, because they sponsor the Vizual Edge Pro Reads, Vizual Edge will give you 10% off all monthly and annual subscriptions using the code INGOAL, all caps, InGoal, all caps, to save 10% on Vizual Edge monthly and annual subscriptions. And even better, if you're an InGoal premium member, and why wouldn't you be? Because you get to see pro reads like the one we're going to discuss with Dustin Wolf on breakaways. You get 20% off. I can't give the code over the air. You need to be a member. Log into any pro reads and you'll see the code to receive 20% off Vizual Edge, cognitive and vision training tool used by the best on the ice, used by the best in the goalie coaching room. Why isn't it used by you? It will improve your ability to see pucks, and it is so crucial. So make sure you check out Vizual Edge at our Pro Reads this week, featuring Dustin Wolf.
Felt bad for Wolf. Dropped a 2-1 decision to Winnipeg. Their team just can't score, and it's hard enough playing in the league. If you've played at any level for any length of time and you end up on a team that can't score, you know that little anxiety that's around you. If you let in two, that the chances of you being successful are very limited, and it's even more heightened in the National Hockey League and with the challenge of the Calgary Flames right now.
Oh, it's a very real thing. We've talked about this with the Anaheim Ducks. John Gibson went through it for years in Anaheim. Ryan Miller, has shared thoughts on that. What it's like. It is so hard as a goaltender to go into a game knowing that 1 or 2 is 1 or 2 too many. That you almost feel like you have to be perfect. And listen, Dustin hasn't been to start the season for sure. They're giving up a fair amount of grade A's. They're not the worst team in the league defensively, but they're certainly asking him to basically play Superman. And the reality is he did last year. Like his numbers we've talked about, we're right up there with Connor Hellebuyck on a per shot basis in terms of how he performed relative to his environment. You couldn't see it because the environment wasn't as friendly as what Hellebuyck and company had in Winnipeg and other goalies around the league, but that's how damn good he was. So I'll tell you, it may not be the start that he wants, but knowing Dustin Wolf, he will, and I thought last night was the start of it, turn this around. Whether it's enough for the Calgary Flames, he will figure out a way to deal with all these pressures. That's just the type of kid he is, and we all know how good a goaltender he is. And while it may not be going his way overall to start the season, it sure does anytime you get him on a breakaway or a shootout, and that's the focus of this week's Pro Reads. We promised you this one. We've had a lot of Dustin Wolf lately, in part because he's so damn good and so damn popular. The people's goalie, everybody loves a 6-footer. We will have one in the feature interview this week as well, in Shane. But the way he holds his edges, we saw it in that opening win against Edmonton, the way he manages shootouts, the way he manages breakaways, it's so impressive. So after we discussed that last week and what allows him to succeed, we had to go back to him because that was part of our Pro Reads when we connected before the season. And he walks us through sort of some of his keys, why he's able to hold edges, why he's able to stay so patient and not bite on moves in this week's Pro Reads. Make sure you check it out. There's a little bit on depth management, matching speed, but mostly about sort of managing that ability to widen out without becoming prone to early commitment down to the ice.
I was on the ice with a couple of guys on the weekend, and I had it in my head that Dustin Wolf, like, wide and on his edges. So I just started screwing around with it for a couple of minutes. You can't replicate it. You can look at it.
That's not for us mortals, Darren.
But it's like, it felt so vulnerable while doing it. And I don't know how he does it. It's impressive to see. It's more impressive when you try and do it.
Yeah, it is truly remarkable. He does it to the end. That's why we wanted to focus on it in this week's Pro Reads. He does it to the nth degree, right? Like it's a little bit of a tough one for Pro Reads because it's not like, hey, look at this, look what he does, go do that. Because most people can't, right? Like his ability to sort of have his edges on the ice when his knee is barely off it. It's a small list of guys. It's him, it's Shesterkin. But then to be able to still generate power from that width it's incredible. And the patience that comes with it, it's going to be, but again, part of it too is like, anytime you're that good on something, I think I said last week, he's where deeks go to die. Teams are going to be like, well, if we can't beat him this way, let's just walk in and shoot, right? So that's where that managing your depth and making sure you're not retreating too quickly, that you're at the top of your crease when the play hits the hash mark on a shootout or on a breakaway. That's going to be key to this because as good as he is down low and tight, if you try and go east-west on him, unless you push the puck and the pad over the goal line, cough, cough, you're going to have a tough time beating him, and teams will be like, well, if we can't score this way, let's score the other way and start shooting.
Yeah, his ability to maintain his explosiveness while he's so steep and wide out is mind-blowing. Hutch is standing by with the Stop at Goaltending You parent segment, getting involved with your child's goaltending and goaltending development. But first, Stop at Goaltending You, the app.
Well, we've talked about it every week. And I would remind you folks that if you get a subscription to Stop at Goaltending You, the app, you also get a subscription to InGoal Magazine, InGoal Premium, all the great articles that we have up there, the complete archives, those Pro Reads we just talked about with Dustin Wolf, you get all of them. You get over 300 video sessions of us sitting down with NHL goaltenders breaking down tape. You also get the Stop at Goaltending You app, which includes similar type breakdowns at times from the coaches at Stop at Goaltending You and their 25 years of experience. But this week, they break down clips with Arizona State University goaltender Sam Urban. So they're mixing that in. You get the daily primers, where Brian DeCord gives you quick 1-minute videos to help you become a better goaltender. Little lessons that'll stick with you, but don't take long to digest. This week, they focus on decision-making under duress. Goalie systems. They break down, speaking of Dustin Wolf, they break down the success of small goaltenders and what is key to it in their goalie systems video. And in the drills this week, They've got a variable net drive drill with behind the net and pass out options. It's actually one that I'm thinking of breaking out with a team with a couple young goaltenders that I've started working with, because the team gives up tons of behind the net pop passes into the middle. So this is a drill I think we might incorporate in practice next week. So you can find all those things every week on the Stop It Goaltending U app. And a reminder, you get a full subscription to InGoal Magazine Premium.
So the parent segment this week, Hutch is going to dabble into getting involved with your child's goaltending. I know that you have an angle on how to go about that or experience with that, and we'll lean into your path after Hutch offers his tip.
I've alluded to parts of what I'm sharing this week in the past, but I want to collect and emphasize a few of them together today. Get involved in your child's development as a goaltender and a young athlete. Of course, you are already involved in so many areas of their life, but I wanted to share a few thoughts on how you can be actively involved in their development on and off the ice. I know you already work hard to provide them these great opportunities, from earning the funds to support this expensive position and driving them to rinks near and far and so much more. And in the busyness of life and already doing so much, we often forget the impact we can have by doing just a little bit more, and more importantly, doing it together. They love that you come to watch their games and practices, I'm sure, but that's not really a shared experience. Your kids won't remember the car rides much, and they certainly have no clue how many times you reach for that checkbook. But if you take 10 minutes here and there during the week to do something as simple as toss a ball together, or even learn a new skill like juggling alongside them, or even have them teach you, those moments will be remembered forever. It's really that simple. If you hope your child will do some extra training at home and lead a more active life, why not do it with them? Maybe you can't do every exercise or sport, but you can do some, and the active modeling as a personal dedication to training will instill the same dedication in them. This isn't about pushing or nagging or requiring. It's showing them a shared love for something, and it can't be forced. People often ask how they can get their child more engaged, how they can get their kid to work harder, and my answer is always the same. Model it. Set the example. Many will say it has to come from within, that they have to be born with the drive and so on, but I simply don't believe that. You can't force your child to love training or to be competitive on the ice, but you can model it right alongside them. Show them that the best way to spend free time is being active, from a backyard game of badminton to a hike on a local trail to maybe even playing goal yourself. I've met several goalies who started after their kids did, and even asked their young goalie to help them learn. Now, how powerful is that? Okay, I know some kids will still not be competitive. We aren't all wired that way. I get it. But I think this is the best way to find out. And look, you can even learn alongside them in other ways. Maybe sitting down and going through our weekly pro read together, or frankly, any other type of goalie education. You show them how helpful and fun it can be. If you have the experience, you can discuss the pro reads together. And if you don't, you can ask them to explain what things mean. Nothing helps you or them learn more than having to teach. And especially when they're just getting started or quite young, I've said it before, volunteer as a coach if you're able. And as long as you can lace on a pair of skates and have the time, you can do it. Take the Hockey Canada or USA Hockey first level of training. They are designed for people just like you who've never coached goalies. And if your child is miles ahead of you in both ability and experience, you can still help. Simply being an advocate for goalies on a team and being available to support them if the coach will give you any amount of time to work with them can help. If you're not feeling confident, simply ask the goalies themselves. What do you need? How can I help? Whether it's 10 minutes here or there, doing something like tossing a ball, or investing in the time by committing to coaching, or anything in between, it's the moments spent together that you will cherish forever. So go out there and make some time together this week.
I teased just your journey with your daughters. What did you learn during their path? It wasn't hockey, it wasn't goaltending, but we could all kind of relate and saddle up our own experiences alongside the sport of hockey.
Well, I think, and Hutch touched on it. These great pieces of advice. And I think when you hear something like get involved in your kids' development, like you might be like, oh, really? Like we don't want, like, do they want us to be involved? Do we want to be too involved? But Hutch had so many great takeaways in there. They're going to help you build the relationship. It's an experience, a positive experience when you get involved like that. But also how many times, and this is mine, like how many times do we want them to work harder? We want them to train harder. We're adults. We've seen what it takes to make the next level. Sometimes they're not aware of it. Telling them, let's be honest, it's not always the best way because they don't always listen. Showing them, it's an old journalism rule. Show me, don't tell me. And so for me, it started last summer with my daughter who's now playing Div 2 college volleyball in the States about the sort of the habits required off the court. She loves practice, didn't always love training. And so me nagging her to train, not necessarily the best way to do it. Me committing to getting in much better shape myself and doing a similar level of workload and her seeing me doing that on a day-to-day basis, it sets the example. It's show me, don't tell me. Don't just tell your kids to do something you're not willing to do. I put the work in myself to feel better physically. She followed that lead. My wife went to the gym with her. So they would she can't do the same training. My wife can't, but she was there with her, helping, spot her on certain sets. And so just, again, seeing other people who used to tell you to do things, doing it themselves, seeing them put in the work, it absolutely inspires kids to want to do a little more. And as Hutch said, I thought so eloquently, at the end of the day, it's the moments spent together that you get out of this. But there's ways to do it. Don't just get mad at them for not working hard. Show them what it looks like.
Great stuff from parents for parents. Flip over to our Sensorina feature interview. Ian Shea going to be with us this week. Cool journey, Cornell guy, and now playing professional, all under the umbrella of Sensorina and NHL Sensorina.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a perfect tie-in. We don't even need to do a read on NHL Sensorina because Ian Shane uses NHL Sensorina, and he'll tell you exactly how and why during our interview. But one of the things that we've really gotten into, and Hutch has talked about it the past couple of weeks, is game flow for goalies. This is a new feature. One of the things that we talk about all the time, and we've been doing this for a few years now with Sensorina, is that you don't just buy it as it exists right now. It is constantly evolving and constantly developing. And the latest release includes this game flow for goalies, continuous play simulation. So it's kind of uninterrupted. It's not just one drill, take a break, do the next drill. It's kind of like gameplay, mirroring the pace and unpredictability of a real hockey game. You get high-speed shots, live traffic, active screens, really challenges goalies to maintain focus over a longer period of time and adaptability as you get these realistic game conditions. Challenges continued focus and mental stamina, train through short or extended periods of in-zone action, building on the mental and physical endurance essential for game situations, rebound control, situational awareness, practice controlling your rebounds and reading the play under pressure, enhancing that decision-making and reaction times off the rush with continued in-zone play. So it's a great new feature. They're always looking for new features. We talked about the goalie advancement program, and the last part that I haven't finished the review on, in part because I can't get into the headset right now with my eyes, but the traffic management portion of that, and that's something that Ian Shane discusses here. That's one of the things that he really thinks he's going to use it for even more in the ECHL, as he's discovering in the program, traffic is even harder. You can go to practice and say, I want to work on traffic, but nobody wants to get in the way. Your teammates don't want to stand in front of the net and potentially get clipped by hammers from the point. So you never get the realistic. You're probably most realistic practice version of managing traffic available is actually in virtual reality through NHL Sensorina. So Ian Shane uses it. We'll hear about that from him coming up in a couple minutes. And we think you'll be a better goalie if you use it too. Game flow new from NHL Sensorina.
Here's the feature interview on InGoal Radio, the podcast.
Really excited to welcome to the InGoal Radio podcast. As I understand, a listener. So that's always good when we have people that actually listen to the show. Ian Shane, first year professional after 3 years at Cornell, 3 outstanding seasons at Cornell. Want to get into your experiences there, transitioning to life as a pro, which you're just starting, opening weekend right now in the ECHL. First off, just welcome to the show. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This is awesome.
California guy, too.
Mm-hmm.
Which we're seeing increasingly in the National Hockey League. We had a game recently where it was Demko, Wolf, and Cooley were 3 of the 4 goaltenders. So
yeah,
the rise of California goalies. So let's just rewind. Like, how'd you get started? And who were your guys growing up?
yeah. I think it was obviously not as big out there in Los Angeles where I was when I was growing up. My dad played college hockey at Hobart, and then he played a little bit professionally in Germany. So I grew up. He was long retired by then, but I grew up going to his beer league games on Fridays and hanging around the rink, and absolutely loved it. Hockey had always been a part of our family, and when I got my opportunity to throw on the skates, it was incredible. And then I believe my second game of in-house, we didn't have a goalie, so coach raises or asks who wants to play goalie. I was the first one to raise my hand, and just kind of never looked back since.
What I know, I gotta ask, was Dad a goalie too, or just hockey?
No, he was not a goalie. He was a forward.
So how do you feel about that?
He wasn't too excited. I think he was hoping that I'd get in there, get shelled, and it'd just be a quick little phase and get on with, teaching me about being a forward and a defenseman. But unfortunately, and now fortunately, obviously stuck with it.
Now, were there guys you start playing just for love of the game? What did you love about the position? Were there guys you looked up to early? Who were some of the early influences growing up in California?
Yeah, I think the guy I looked up to most is Jonathan Quick. You look back at his resume from 2012, 2014, and getting to grow up in that LA Kings era, watching those teams compete. I think every goalie falls in love with sort of the pads. Like I love throwing on the helmet, having the bigger stick and the setups, and sort of the creativity you could have behind it. And then watching Jonathan Quick, his compete level, and how significant and important part of a team he was for the Kings in that time. It was something that motivates you as an athlete and a competitor to be like, okay, that's really cool to be on the spot and sort of be the guy, and that's something you want to strive for.
Was there a point where, at what point did you go from just watching and sort of appreciating that to maybe emulating? Like, were there times where you hit a point where you're looking at how Jonathan Quick plays the game or how he handles a certain situation and trying to maybe bring that into your game? Although Quickie's so unique, I don't know. As you talk about pads, like, I don't know if you've ever had a chance to sort of grab a set of his pads, but you could they're so soft. It's incredible. I don't think anybody else has pads like that anymore.
No, and I think he's still using, I could be wrong, like the V4, V5s from, God, gotta be close to 20 years ago now. So when
I think
what you
there
like,
might be a little V2 in there too as part of that.
I would imagine, but I'd say honestly, it happens a little subconsciously earlier on in those years. Like I was playing my first game as a goalie, probably around 9 or 10 years old. So I think when you're watching guys like Quick, you're not really overanalyzing at that age because you don't really know what should I be looking out for. How's he reading situations? What is he doing with his puck touches? You're just kind of watching. You're like, wow, he's aggressive. He steps out of the net. He's in a big squat. He's pushing over into the splits. And so I think a little bit of that you start to emulate in your own game as a little kid. And then once you start working with goalie coaches out there and really start trying to get an understanding of the game, and sort of thinking your way through it during practices, I think that's when you start paying more attention to, okay, what is he doing on these situations? What does his edge work look like in the crease? What's his high stance, his mid stance, his low stance, things like that? What does he do with the puck when he's behind the net? So I think it kind of does take a little bit of an external influence of these people to come to you and start pushing the idea that you need to start being a student of the game as well.
What age was that for you? And who were some of those influences from the goalie coaching side that were like, hey, like take a look? I mean, I'm instantly loving what I'm hearing in terms of just how in-depth you're talking about multiple stances and things like that. Mm-hmm. When did that start, and how has that evolved for you over the years in terms of how you look at your game, how you watch others?
For me, I started with Jamie Storr, was sort of the goalie coach for the Junior Kings in Southern California. And then I actually met Dustin Wolf and his mother through a couple of skates, and started talking to him about his goalie coach, and my dad was talking about him, and Ended up working with James Jensen down in California, who's also works with Lyle Mass. So that was probably around 11, 12 years old. And sort of really getting into the philosophy of head trajectory in the modern game, I think was huge. So probably about 12, 13 years old was when I decided, all right, I'm a head trajectory guy, head first on everything, is sort of the philosophy.
And that's interesting because I had no idea that, like, James Jensen and obviously Lyle are two people that I know, and I didn't realize that those influences. So what does it mean to you? Caught me off guard there. I didn't do my homework here, Ian, well enough. Obviously, I should have sent Jenner a note, and then I would have had the whole. Well, you know, when you say that, because a lot of people have heard that, and that phrase means different things to different people. I think there's a lot of misunderstandings around it too. What does it mean to you?
To me, and I've also worked with PJ Musico, who's also another student from James Jensen and Lyle, but so many of the mechanics in your body, it comes from one, mentally getting the information first. What are your eyes seeing? What are your eyes taking in? What handedness is he? Is it a one timer? Is he a threat? Is he not a threat? And then also understanding that sort of the head and the neck and that downward motion drives the rest of your body to kind of come around. And obviously, I think for every athlete, the legs feed the wolf, but the head obviously kind of, sends the information and sends the angles and everything that the legs need to do sort of prior to the actual movement. So to me, it would just be head first gives you the most information cognitively and physically.
Okay, I was gonna say, and like eyes first is something we hear a lot, and I think that's a pretty common thing, right? Like in terms of visual attachment, getting that information early, leading with the eyes. Is when you add the head to that, or you say head instead of eyes, is it about the way you move your head as opposed to just look at the puck fast?
Yeah, because I think sometimes every goalie gets caught. You're sort of looking with your eyes first a little bit instead of bringing that head around, and your eyes go first, and you kind of start extending yourself and reaching out a little bit as opposed to bringing that head down and trying to keep your eyes perfectly in the center of their sockets. That's where you're going to be the most stable. It's where they're going to take in the most information. That's obviously if you're facing the puck, if you're on angle, you'll have the most access to the puck. So getting early eyes is important, but getting that head around is, I think, just as equally important.
Builds rotation too. So obviously,
absolutely,
yeah. Okay. So I'm curious now too, like the relationship with Wolf, was it just at that point? Obviously, a guy that we know pretty well, and I mean his edge work and his. Describe your game for me, because you guys have one thing in common from a height perspective. You're thriving at 6 feet. What have been the challenges other than perception that you've had to overcome at that, and how, like maybe walk us through your game and how you've succeeded at this level? I mean, all the success in the NCAA, now transitioning to pro, and how what you think the keys to that are.
Yeah, I think perception is obviously the biggest obstacle. There's everybody. I mean, I had my exit meeting in Coachella Valley after the American League camp, and it was a very positive meeting. It was the same thing was brought up was, hey, you're an undersized goalie, so just go prove that you can do it. And it's like, all right, well, even still here after having a college resume, junior resume, stuff like that still comes up, but it's not as important. I think what's really more important is, kind of the process every single day, proving to yourself, proving to your teammates that you can be a good goaltender. And it was honestly a blessing for myself to get to work with a guy like Dustin from ages probably 11 through 14. He was kind of the other guy on the ice with me and James Jensen. And I took 2 years to be homeschooled actually in middle school so that I could kind of get some of that time in the mornings and whatnot to really be able to hone in with Jenner. And I think that paid huge dividends for me down the road. But just getting to watch his game and sort of his compete level and his approach every single day. I mean, he's a guy that we were 13 years old and he's doing a full dynamic warm up and eye trajectory stuff and having a protein shake after skates and a full cool down. And, I just didn't appreciate the nutrition aspect of it yet. I mean, I'm 12, 13 years old. It's hard to at that age. Looking back, you wish you did, but
well, I'd say, hey, at 13, you're asking Dad to take you for Slurpees on the way home. Let's be honest. I mean, at least most of us were.
Yeah, or asking for a Chipotle stop or something like that. And I mean, that's why Wolfie's obviously having the success that he has. Is just he pays such great attention to those details, and that's something that I try to bring to my game, especially nowadays, is really honing in on the nutrition, the sleep aspect. I use the Whoop band to kind of track my sleep and my strain throughout the day. So that's the stuff that obviously he's been a pro. He's been at this. He's been treating himself as a professional for long since before he even went to junior hockey. And like that's something that I tried to emulate a little bit. Once I went to junior hockey and college hockey, you're learning the game at a higher and higher level, and now trying to just take all those lessons I learned into my first year of actual professional hockey.
Well, I guess the benefits too, like junior and now in the ECHL, especially like NCAA, it's weekends and like it's probably a little easier to maintain some of those things. But junior, the bus rides and the what you're about to embrace in terms of bus rides and that lifestyle, it can be hard to stay on top of some of those things. So coming in and not having to learn the importance of nutrition, I don't know how many guys do these days, but I still hear from some that are this is a first time thing. That's got to have a benefit. Did you see the payoff? Like, let's go through junior, like 2 seasons in junior, USHL with Chicago, NAHL with Bismarck. Do you see compared to other guys who maybe hadn't figured that out yet, the benefits?
Yeah, I think it really paid off my freshman year of college when we had a few younger guys who were kind of struggling with the academic piece, just because going from junior hockey to college hockey and taking those years off, it's hard to sort of get that schedule back on track. And you're managing the fatigue from we had early morning lifts, and then I have to go to class, and then I have to go to practice after class, and now I got to do homework. So that time management and that kind of prioritizing sleep and nutrition as my fuel to make sure that I could maintain a good level of energy throughout all those things was huge for me. And I think that was something that'll hopefully make, I think, professional hockey easier when you take the academic piece out of it. And it's just, okay, we got practice in the morning. I have the rest of the day to refuel, rehydrate, recover.
Obviously, somebody did a really good job in the homeschooling because you went to Cornell. So not a lot of people even getting into Cornell is a challenge. Maybe some advice for young goalies on how you went about, time management is something that I'm 52 years old and I struggle with time management. It's one of my biggest challenges right now. So maybe for all those young goalies out there that are trying to figure this out, like how'd you go about it? Like, cause some guys have different systems, different plans, different tips along the way that help them sort of, get a handle on taking better care of their time so they can take better care of themselves and be better prepared to play.
Yeah, I think looking back on it, I have such an appreciation for my parents and the way that they approached my whole development, my upbringing. It wasn't, hey, we're gonna homeschool you so you can become an NHL hockey player, and that's what you're doing, and they're pushing me. It was, hey, you're in California, it's tough. You're on a AAA team. I was playing for the California Wildcats, so I'm practicing down in Riverside. I live in Manhattan Beach. I'm going to school. I went to Loyola High School, which was an hour north, and then I'm driving 2 hours south for practice. Like I just didn't have a life outside of hockey. Barely got to see my friends. Um, I couldn't really be a part of the school culture very much because I'm leaving all the time for practices or for tournaments. So for the homeschooling aspect, I think it was my parents saying, we got to try and give him some time back also. So get these practices in, and then school was really 2 or 3 hours a day. You cut out the recess, you cut out lunch breaks and arts and crafts, all this other stuff, and kind of just hone in on what are the things that is part of the education that is actually important. And I was in a program, it was called K-12, like a California Virtual Academy. So I did have a structure and a system. It wasn't just my parents kind of trying to shoot in the dark there. So that also helped. But I think for a lot of people, especially at that age, your structure around you is so important. And it's hard for any kid to manage their time when you go to class for 7 hours, then you have practice, and then you have homework, and you feel you can burn out pretty easily. It's hard to find that time for yourself. It's hard to say, okay, I have a few extra hours in my day. Is there something I can work on? Is there something I can do to make myself a better hockey player? Or should I just, relax? Should I take a little bit of a recovery day? What can I learn about myself in this time? So just trying to find ways to get that time back is really important. And then for managing time when you're older, it's really about accountability. I mean, they're not spending in college, you'd see guys spend a little too much time at the dining hall, or they would sort of marinate a little bit too long after practice in the locker room. And those are just 30-minute periods that add up over the course of a week that you can get back. And that, like, the same goes for in high school. Not hanging around the rink too long or hanging around with your buddies too long or too late, like prioritizing your sleep. Like there are ways to get 15, 20, 30 minutes back throughout the day. And over the course of a week, that could be the difference of a few hours.
That's such a great piece of advice. Sometimes in the moment, it can be hard to recognize that. Did you have anything that, other than just sort of like, was it all just self-awareness, or did you do anything to map out that time and sort of understand you could be able to sort of quantify and see it? And then when you can, it probably helps you realize what you're getting back, right? If you save that 15 here, 15 there, 15 there, and then you do get a chance to take some time for yourself, however you choose to spend it.
Yeah, that was something that I think my parents did a great job facilitating. Driving to the rink a couple hours there and back every day, and going to high school, that was about 45 minutes away. A lot of time in the car, obviously, and a lot of time my parents like, you can't waste this. If we're going to be in the car and you want to keep playing hockey, you're going to have to get homework done on these drives or do something productive towards school. Like, you're just losing time, you're burning time sitting in the car. So I would do homework on the bus rides and the car rides, and just kind of made me realize, like, yeah, okay, I do have those time periods. I am able to get something done here. I don't want to waste that time.
It's great lesson. So you get to college, and as you said, that obviously pays off, because student athlete is not an easy thing to do. My younger daughter's first year right now, figuring that all out herself, and it's hard. There's a lot of demands, the amount of lifts, as you said, workouts, practices. Like, it's a significant commitment, and school for the first time. What was the biggest adjustment on the ice when you get to Cornell?
Biggest adjustment on the ice, I would say the jump from high school to junior is a little bit bigger than it is from junior to college. You're playing with more mature guys, obviously, in junior hockey. So the biggest adjustment was kind of making sure that you have all aspects of your life running to their best ability. Like,
So kind of go back to the time management, was about
to go
being
back
organized.
to the time management. Yeah, it's about being organized, because if you're struggling in the classroom, if you're struggling in your social life, things like that, it'll sort of start to eat you up, and it'll take effects to you on the ice. So making sure that you have all those other things taken care of, it makes it so much easier, so much less stressed out on the ice. And I think that's the biggest thing, is guys sometimes just stay up too late. They're doing work, they're trying to cram for exams, things like that. And you're not sleeping as well, you're not eating as well, you can't perform as well. No one can, make up for that lack of nutrition or recovery.
On the ice, you had a ton of success. MVP of the EC, two-time champion and MVP of the ECAC championship. Ken Dryden, goalie of the year. I got to ask, like, when you go to Cornell, is that presence pretty, like, do you feel that presence? Is it on the walls? Are there, like, you end up winning the Ken Dryden goalie of the year, but obviously a school that I think we associate with Ken so much.
Yeah, we have a tribute to him right as soon as you walk into the rink that sort of explains his legacy. He's got his jersey up in the rafters, obviously, him and Joe Newendike. So it is cool just looking up every now and then, glancing at that jersey and realizing, like, wow, I'm playing in the exact same building and same ice that Ken Dryden played on. And it gives you a little bit of pride, especially as a goalie.
Also two-time on the Mike Richter watch list. What, how'd your game evolve during the years in college? And, what kind of things changed? How did it have to evolve, if it did at all?
Yeah, I think that I'm a very aggressive goaltender. And that's something that I was able to use to my advantage with the Cornell systems, because I think we played a very structured game in our D zone. So it allowed me the time and space and the opportunities to step out on forwards really well. And that was something that Mike Schaefer really preached for me in my game. Being a smaller goalie, was you gotta compete, you gotta be aggressive. Every day in practice, that's the emphasis all the time, is competing. And I love that. I loved our blue collar approach to it. It just instilled the sort of work ethic in me that, okay, if things aren't going well, you can work your way out of it. If things are going well, how can you make yourself that much better? So never being complacent, never being happy with exactly where you're at. And like you mentioned, the watch list stuff for the Mike Richter, obviously it's cool to be mentioned and named amongst the goalies like that. But obviously at the end of the day, that's not what you're competing for. You want to have the chance for a Frozen Four and a national championship. And I think our team did a great job keeping our focus solely on that and sort of just throwing the individual accolades by the wayside. And so I think from freshman to senior year, it became so much easier to manage all that noise, and manage sort of the expectations for ourselves. I mean, we had a very tough, my senior year, we had a pretty tough season. We were struggling for the greater part of 2 or 3 months, I would say. I had a pretty tough month of January. Things just weren't going well for me mentally. And then by the time we started making the playoff push, I just think our team was so mature, and just really understood our goals and our own expectations in our own room, that it was like, okay, well, we just need to throw everything else aside. It's playoffs, nothing else matters. And obviously we were able to come out with another championship.
Yeah, I was going to say too, like I know that wasn't the season maybe you wanted as a senior, statistically, all those things, but at the end of it, 5 goals in 5 games and an ECAC title. What lessons on refocusing? Lessons on, because we say it all the time, right? Like it's the easiest thing to say but the hardest thing to do. Like it's the next shot mentality. How were you able to, any advice you can share with other kids who maybe, the season hasn't started the way they wanted? So hard sometimes to move past that, as well as you were able to do down the stretch and the playoffs there.
Yeah, I think that the big issue for us is we did have a little bit of expectations coming back into the year, and that can be positive and negative. And I think it's negative when we started having injuries to a lot of our older guys and our top players, and they weren't coming back. We started struggling as a team, and then started really fighting. Okay, well, we expected to be here, and now we're here, and it became a bit of a grind. And I think a lot of guys put stress on themselves to overperform or try and do too much, and we sort of hit rock bottom. I think we lost 6-1 to Dartmouth at home, and some of us upperclassmen had a talk, and we were like, we're not making it fun. We're not having a good time right now. Like, we're putting so much stress on ourselves. It's a game. It's a children's game, as PD Melgoza here at Kansas City likes to say. It's a children's game. And I remember talking to our hockey operations guy, Corey Lieberman, who's now one of the associate coaches at Clarkson University. And he was like, you used to come into the rink in the fall and you'd have a smile on your face. You'd be laughing around with everybody. And now I see you coming to the rink and you're stressed out, you're quiet, you're clearly trying to focus on, I need to get better here. I need to feel better here. And he's like, just have fun with it. Enjoy the process, enjoy the ride. Like, it's a game. At the end of the day, we're not saving lives. We're blessed to be able to play college hockey at the area, at the place that we're at, and just kind of throw it away, do your best, forget the rest sort of mentality. And I actually read a book at that time, The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F, expletive obviously, but kind of helped my mindset big time of just having fun with it, not overemphasizing the details of, okay, my warm up, my recovery, and freaking out about this, and that, and just remembering it's a game and having fun with it, and throwing the things that you can't control away and just controlling what you can. And a lot of that is just your work ethic and your attitude.
Expectations are so tough to deal with. They tend to lead to, like you said, trying too hard. I feel like this is a position, especially, I mean, for everybody to a certain degree, but I always make the analogy between golf and goaltending, like the two sports or the two things, or you just trying harder rarely works. But it's, again, easy to say in my office here, but a lot harder to do in the moment.
Yeah.
So those lessons, once learned, are they sort of ingrained, or do you have to remind yourself of some of those things as you move now into professional hockey?
I think you always gotta remind yourself. I had my first couple practices here in Kansas City a few weeks ago. I was stressing out. I felt like I had a great camp over at Coachella, come down here, and then first day didn't go so well, and had to go back at my journals and whatnot, and kind of look at, okay, how was I feeling there? What am I doing differently here? Okay, I'm just stressing myself out. It's kind of in my head a little bit. Just loosen up, relax a little bit, like you said. And then things started going well again. So just, it's little reminders like that, but keeping track of how you feel, I think, is so important. Keeping a journal or some kind of log of what am I doing? How am I doing mentally, physically? Like, obviously when things are going poorly, it's easy to remember why. And sometimes you write those down more than why are things going well. So I think keeping track of both sort of aspects of when things are going well, why, and if things are going poorly, why is super important.
How long have you been doing that? Because it's another great piece of advice. We keep hearing this more and more from guys about the value of having a journal, and almost to the point where it feels like, over at InGoal, we need to throw up another article reminding people this is almost non-negotiable. Like, this is such a valuable tool.
Yeah, I've been doing that since my second year juniors. I started it in Bismarck in the Null. Yeah, just kind of mostly I had more free time than when I was in Chicago, so I wanted to sort of put my thoughts on paper, and I thought it'd be interesting to be able to look back at a few years from now. And I do love looking back at some of those entries and just seeing where my head was at and seeing obviously some of the similarities and trends in seasons, whether it's my last year of juniors or my junior year at college. Like, you see trends, you see similarities, you see how your brain starts to work, and then over the course of couple years and some time and some seasons, you start to notice these trends sort of right away and how you're feeling, and you go, oh, I could probably look back and I would realize that that's how I felt when A, B, and C was happening in my life, and okay, this is how I managed it last time. So it's really good to kind of keep track of all that.
Yeah, it's funny, we talked about not trying too hard, or I talked about how you can't just try harder in this position, and yet you mentioned, aggressive goalie, quote unquote, and things like depth. So walk us through, because a lot of people will be like, oh, I think it's a stereotype sometimes that smaller goalies, and smaller, like a lot of people give their right arm to be 6 feet tall, by the way. That when we hear aggressive, like, I think some people think that it's like way out. Walk me through what depth management looks like for you, and if you think it might have to change at this level too, as the game becomes a little more scrambly, perhaps, in the ECHL this year.
Yeah, it's obviously understanding your time and space, understanding your angles. It doesn't need to be, okay, I'm 6 feet out on the white ice, I'm at the hash marks being a third defenseman here. It's more just, okay, I want a little bit of flow in my game. I want to be able to back up with the play, and it's not this tense, crazy, I'm charging out at you. It's more a matter of understanding, okay, because I'm 6 foot, if my toes are on the top of the crease, then I'll maybe have a few inches above my shoulder if I go down. And if I have my heels at the top of the crease, then that goes by the wayside. That's gone. So for me, I think it is going to change a little bit in the ECHL. And as I saw last night, things can get a little bit scrambly in our own zone. You have to be a little more patient. And I think guys are really good at holding on to pucks in this league from what I've seen last spring and so far this fall. They'll make extra plays. They'll take a little extra time. So I'm not being too aggressive and making sure that I can read the play and manage the play is going to be, I think, something that's really important for my game. You obviously don't want to be rushing out on a 2-on-1. Now you kind of want to be managing it. And if the guy's going to shoot, if that's your read, just holding your ice better and trusting your tracking, trusting your positioning. And if they're going to pass the puck, now I'm a little bit deeper, or I have some flow in my game, I can try and beat the pass on my feet, or make a down drive, but I'm in a position where I can get there quickly, because puck does move that much quicker than in college, and these guys do make that much just better reads sometimes.
Yeah, it's an interesting. I want to make sure I touch on it, because it sounds like you're, for the most part, in contact with the crease, like heels out, toes in. I think when people hear somebody say aggressive, they think white ice, like white ice behind the heels kind of thing. So I think that's an important lesson for kids too, that this isn't the 80s. We can't be out at the hash marks all that often, unless again, like reads and specific situations, right? You talked about taking a step out on a forward if there's nothing there. How have you learned, like, it feels like you're a student of the game, that ability to read and anticipate is so important. How have you gone about sort of enhancing that? Is it just experience, or have you become a video guy? Does it depend on the level and what you have access to? Are there things you think other kids could do to get better at reading the game?
I'm definitely a video guy. I love rewatching all my games on Instat, because I've gotten the luxury for a few years of having that account through junior hockey and then college, and then now obviously in the ECHL. So going through that, sort of analyzing situations, and it doesn't have to be crazy of I'm keeping track of every shot and every play and what exactly did I do, but it's these trends, it's pattern mapping. That's a big part of the game, is recognition and pattern mapping, and seeing, okay, where am I for these certain situations, and just sort of reading the play and rethinking it, talking about it with your goalie coach or someone that you trust. And for me, it's kind of looking at where I can and can't use certain tactics. Like I do love to be an aggressive goaltender, and for the most part, everyone's been giving me the advice of you can't be as aggressive in the ECHL. Things break down. Guys are that much better with the puck on their stick. They'll wait you out a little bit longer. So um, being aware,
find that
yeah,
balance.
yeah, find that balance and take advice from other people, listen to other people. Obviously, play your own game, play your style, but we're always students of the game. You should always be trying to learn. And if I can get the advice from a couple guys that I really trust, where they said, yeah, when I went pro, I had to figure X, Y, and Z out, then that's going to help me that much more.
Pattern mapping. Is that just watching and sort of paying attention, like not subconsciously, because you're clearly thinking about it, but is it sort of just thinking about it and then it becomes innate, or like you would study for a course? Like, are you making notes as you're doing the video and trying to build in, as Mitch Korn says, right? Like, goaltending is not a game of shots, it's a game of patterns.
Yeah, I would say for me, it has a lot to do with repetition. So seeing these situations a lot, obviously by playing tons and tons of games and a lot of hockey, you're exposed to these situations plenty of times, and getting to rewatch those videos and those clips of those games and sort of rethinking through those, obviously, and visualizing it, it gives you more repetition. And more ways to kind of think through it in a controlled setting. Obviously, goalie sessions with a goalie coach are great for this because you get to talk about the situation, and then let's do 6 reps of this stepping off the post to an overlap or just something, for example. And then, okay, now let's talk about it. What'd you feel? What were you thinking? Okay, let's do 6 more. Now let's do the other side. Like, getting to see that, and then when it happens in a game really quickly, it's not a thinking of, oh, okay, what did he say here? Should I step out? No, maybe I should stay back. It's just it's automatic. You can't think and play goaltending at the same time. So getting that repetition away from the games, I think, is the most important part.
Yeah, as I always say, although you're probably too young to watch it, although maybe the new movie helped. If you think out there, you're dead. That's the old Top Gun line.
Mm-hmm.
You use Sensorina as well. Like, it's funny, time management. Are you still using it? Like, and in what way? Because we've talked to a lot of guys. I know you were at Coachella Valley camp, and I'll ask you about that real quick. But in what way do you use Sensorina now? How has that evolved over the years? Because you're so big on time management, I'm guessing it saves you some time.
Yeah, it definitely does. Instead of going for a whole hand-eye warm-up or things like that, it's great to just sort of get the feel of tracking down right away. So I love throwing it on for a few drills for practice. Like Joey Decord obviously has a lot of training programs on there. There's the USA Hockey training programs on there that I love using just because you see a lot of different shots, a lot of different angle changes really quickly. Right now, my goal, mostly because I listened to that episode where you guys were talking to Joey Decord about his using it to try and make reads through traffic and whatnot. I think that's going to be one of the biggest changes for me. I mean, unfortunately, I let up 2 goals through traffic last night. One of them I probably want back. So something I'm definitely going to focus on this week and talk about with our goalie coach is just focusing on kind of watching through guys, sort of maintaining the puck, because that's one of the biggest differences I've noticed is guys are really good at being in front, and sort of that money spot, that traffic area is pretty tough to look through. I had maybe 4 or 5 guys in front of me when that first one went in, so it's tough. But I'm going to use that sort of. That's my goal with it right now. But usually I don't have a sort of set goal. I love just trying to get a good feel and go in there and sort of turn my brain off a little bit. And same thing, just get repetitions, get the feel down. And then when I come on the ice, it translates very smoothly.
So pre-practice, like almost like a warm up instead of balls off the wall for half an hour kind of thing, or juggling.
Yeah.
This has replaced some of those elements. You use it on game day too?
Yep. I'll use it on game day, especially if I'm not going to do a morning skate. Saving the hips, saving the knees over the course of a long season. Obviously, we had 72 games this year in the ECHL, so way different than college, where I played 34 last year. I think it's gonna be huge. So just sort of maintenance the body, so that'll definitely continue to be my routine, is hopping on there and doing a little morning skate routine.
We're catching you amidst a whirlwind. First year pro, Coachella, into Kansas City, moving. You have to like you have to figure out your whole life. You're changing everything, location, new places, Wi-Fi, all those things. What was the takeaway from the camp at Coachella? You said you thought it went well. Were there any things that jumped out at you in terms of like, hey, that's new, or lessons learned, or advice that you got that was, hey, I hadn't heard that before?
Yeah, it was sort of just watching the guys go about their routines. The other goalies there were Nicholas Coco and Victor Osman, who Victor was actually my partner in juniors as well, so I have a good relationship with him there. Um, Watching them go about their day, it's nothing crazy, but it's obviously they pay a lot of attention to their own details. They hold their feet a little bit more in practice. They really emphasize their tracking. They're so good positionally. So getting to work on the ice with those guys, and the goalie coach there has been Stiletti, who's awesome. He's very stoic demeanor and really holds himself like a professional. And you just you feel this great like energy coming from him. It's always a productive conversation, and he's really into it. And yeah, seeing how these guys approach their day-to-day routines was huge. I was only there for about 6 days, so just trying to take in as much as I could visually and just sort of trying to copy what they were doing on and off the ice. It took in a lot of great information, supplement recovery wise, and practice preparation wise off ice. So yeah, it was a great experience to sort of just see how those guys go about their business and their day, and try and bring that here to Kansas City and keep it going, so that hopefully one day I'm also doing it at that level.
And in Kansas City, you've mentioned a couple times you got a goalie coach there, which is really nice to hear because that's not always the case. This is a big year. It's a tough transition year. There's a lot that's going to be thrown at you. It always amazes me when organizations, whether it's at the NHL level trickling down or the individual teams, sometimes it's a combination. The NHL splitting the cost with the ECHL team, having that support in the first year. What's that been like? Again, just having that voice as you do things like learn that traffic in pro hockey is probably never been tougher than it is right now for goaltenders. I hear that all the time at all levels.
Yeah, it's good because I think if things weren't going well for someone in my position or someone in the East Coast trying it out for the first time on their first year pro, you can obviously get a little bit too wrapped up in your own head and the expectations you put on yourself, as we were talking about earlier, and get too results oriented and not as much focus on the process. And I think having a guy like PD here, having just a goalie coach in general, really helps you focus on the process. You can come back on Monday after a weekend and sort of throw the games behind you and just focus on, all right, this is what we've been working on. Let's continue to get better at this. And you are getting better, and having someone who can kind of keep track of that growth and that development for you is awesome. And they keep you kind of in reality, because obviously you can get a little too ahead of yourself if things are going really well. You can get a little too low on yourself if things are going poorly in the game. So someone who can kind of keep you level headed, I think, is extremely important, especially for, I mean, being thrown in your first year of professional hockey, where a lot of times it can be a revolving door for some teams and guys are moving around a lot and there's so much change throughout the locker room and throughout the season that things can get absolutely just hectic for you.
Well, I was going to say too, I mean, it's that game of patterns. It's so much of what we've learned at pro reads, which was really eye-opening for me over the past few years, is how often that's reading off your own guys, not just what the opponent's trying to do. And that revolving door as guys move up and around, it's not just, it's defensemen, it's forwards, it's being able to build the trust that, hey, like this guy's going to be where he's supposed to be within the system. That's all added wrinkles to an already difficult transition.
Absolutely.
Ian, this has been awesome, man. I really appreciate the time. I appreciate you taking it in the midst of your first weekend as things have just gotten underway for you and first year pro. I look forward to more conversations along the road because I really enjoyed this one. I love your approach, the way you think the game, all the sort of no stone unturned things that you've done over the years. And I know a lot of young goalies are going to listen to this and benefit from you having given us this time and sharing your lessons and stories along the path. So thank you very much.
Of course. Thank you guys for having me. This was awesome.
You said something going into that conversation about players not wanting to stand in front of the net. Add in the fact that your defenseman, your guy, doesn't want to stand there and get into a battle with his own teammate and potentially take a shot or get bruised up during the course of that battle, because that's part of traffic as well, is dealing with all of that chaos.
Yeah, and so you see it like the Seattle Kraken. I remember Steve Briere had him in Toronto and he brought him to Seattle. He had the sort of shot blocking dummies, right? And he'd have them set up on pulley systems so he could like have these like, they literally look like hockey players on a wooden platform with like wooden slats. So they'd be up ice like skates would be for deflections and tips and everything. And he would have a rope attached to him. He'd pull them across the crease as shots were coming because that's the closest they could get to simulating real NHL traffic. Because you're right, nobody wants to stand there. And frankly, teams don't want it. Teams don't want their defenseman. Imagine losing a franchise defenseman because he blocked a shot in a practice. NHL Sense Arena allows you to sort of get that same type of simulation where it actually, there are bodies battling in front of you. So it's a great tool. And I think that goalie advancement program was really focused on sort of off-season tools. But the traffic management one is one that I think will have a ton of value. I think they all do, but that one in particular, a ton of value in season at a time where the game's never been harder at all levels in terms of managing traffic as a goaltender.
All right. Well, if we have practice goalies in the National Hockey League, why don't we get
shot blockers?
Let's get some traffic fillers.
Well, it's two things. The practice goalie gets to wear equipment where it doesn't hurt. So maybe those guys will want goalie gear to be shot block. And I think the liability might be a little higher for the practice shot blockers.
See?
Defensemen are actually soft, Darren. They're just soft. They don't want to stand out there.
Yeah, I actually don't know how they did it. I work with Alec Martinez now, and he was a machine with when it came to eating pucks. And the amount of little add-ons to his gear when he played was extensive because of all the little areas that he would get hit. And I still don't know how he did it. I talked to him about it now, and I'm like, why would you do that?
Because that's what it takes, right? That's why he has cups.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the same way. I'm like, just get out of the way. I'm wearing all this equipment. You're wearing nothing. But the reality is they have to be there because they're trying to box out the other guy.
There is such a strategy to shot blocking. I think the average goaltender that plays at a lower level would be shocked at how much communication and planning there is, a connection between the goaltender and his own defenseman on which side they always take, which allows you to cheat over and maximize your coverage. It's a science.
Well, but it's a science that I think everybody at that level is aware of, and we're seeing it in the NHL now where teams are trying to exploit that science. Understanding that, hey, like, we want our goalie in the short side lane and our defenseman in the flexing out into the middle lane. That's probably how everybody else plays it. Let's watch video. Oh, that is. Okay, so now how as screeners, as generating traffic, can we mess up their system, mess up the goalie's eyes, and use it to our advantage? There was a fantastic example, first goal of the season on Lukas Dostal. And if I mentioned this last week, I'm repeating it. I apologize because it was just the perfect example of how hard it is. He's got short side vision. The screener is in the middle on the shooter. And there's, I believe, a defender tied up with the screener and a flexing forward heading out to the shooter. And as the shooter winds up for the shot, the forward in front of Lukas shifts to the short side. So in the lane where he had vision, forcing him to either stay where he is and lose sight or shift into the middle to regain sight and a little more middle net coverage. Now, as a goaltender, your thought is, well, okay, I'm safe to shift into the middle here because their guy's occupying the short side. Shooter's not shooting at his guy. But as soon as the shot was released, that guy did like he was fighting a bull out there. He just did the old ole, and he twisted out of the way. And basically the plan was for him to get the goalie to vacate the short side as my shooter is shooting at the short side and then move out of the way at the last second. He didn't have a chance. And that's the degree to which teams are trying to attack the traditional ways that goalies and their defensemen play in and out of lanes to help the goalie see and maximize their coverage. Teams are attacking it so purposely. It's just never been harder to manage.
The length of the strategy is incredible for a game that looks absolutely random at times.
100%. And it becomes like that old game of, well, if I'm going to do this and he knows I'm going to do this and they know I'm going to do this, then if I do that, he knows. And it's at the end of the day, it's also totally unpredictable, but they're trying to find these ways to attack the few tendencies they are aware of.
And you almost have to trust the system to stay, in that case, short side. But that's really hard to do when it's a lot more advantageous if you can see the puck.
Well, okay, and not just trust the system, but you got to trust not every defenseman, not every forward is Alec Martinez. They're not all willing to eat it. And so a lot of times you'll have a guy, especially if it's a forward flexing out into the middle lane at the top towards that shooter, they'll be in the right lane. But are they actually there to block a puck, or are they just there? And if it gets past them, you're trusting them to take away that lane, and they're giving it the old ole, maybe not quite a flamingo, but they ain't putting their whole body in the way. That's when things get really difficult, because you're trusting them to not just be there, but to actually take away that lane. And especially when we come to forwards, not all of them do.
It's hard. You're dealing with the human element. National League Championship Series, right? You take one and you bring in a run, and instead batter got out of the way and ended up striking out the next play. And everybody's like, well, if he would have just leaned into it, if he would have just allowed himself to get hit, would have scored a run. Well,
I'm just quite happy that I'm just happy that you didn't reference the ALCS, because I'm still hurting on that one.
I wasn't going to.
Thank you.
Like, I was on the Victoria side of that. I wouldn't do that to you, because I know how painful it would have felt if it hadn't worked out.
Well, to all my friends that didn't feel the same way and felt they had to send a text message to this lifelong Mariners fan last night, I would remind them that I was at Game 5 when the Grand Slam was hit, and I didn't send them any text messages. So thanks for replying in kind, you jerks.
It's karma. Like, don't do it.
Yeah, karma
kick you in the butt.
Karma might be wearing a Dodgers jersey this year.
No, you can't do that.
Hey, listen, I'm not actually. Like, I would happily cheer for the Jays, but the Dodgers are a wagon right now. It'll be good. Hopefully they make it a series. I hope it's a good series. I hope it's entertaining, because I will say this: as much as my heart was broken in the 7th inning last night, and that's 40. People don't realize that's 48 years as a Mariners fan, not a single World Series appearance. That is Lucy. The only shock to me, frankly, was Lucy didn't pull that football away in the 9th inning instead of the 7th. But I hope it's a good series, because there was a few blowouts in the ALCS, but man, like 5 and 7 were just as good as the drama gets.
I enjoyed watching that American League Championship Series and looking going, I've only ever watched a hockey game in that stadium with you.
I was just gonna say I've obviously been to Mariners games, but I reminded the people I went down with, like, I've been here as a fan for the Mariners, but the only game I've ever, well, I actually did work a Mariners game earlier in my career, but the only game in that stadium was absolutely the Winter Classic. So I have good memories there. That was a good game too. It didn't work out for the home team, but remember Joey Decord, like, so much good stuff there. Yeah.
Sort of a coming out party almost for him.
For Joey Decord, yeah. And he started off a great start with Seattle this year. It's a great ballpark. It's a great ballpark. Well, one day we'll get a World Series game in there. Might not be in my lifetime, but one day.
It'll happen for you. Plus, you're in good health.
we'll have like whatever, like those cryogenic chambers will keep me alive long enough to watch the Mariners. I'm not saying win one, just play in one, for crying out loud. Only franchise that hasn't.
I'm trying to think of when he came out of the chamber. Remember, what was the movie? Mike Myers. And he's unloading.
Austin Powers.
Austin Powers. He's getting all his stuff back. That'll be you. Oh, that wasn't mine. No. Thanks for doing this today. Fun stuff as always. Loved our pro reads. The gear segment was fantastic with all the pro returns and options there. And the parent segment continues to deliver every week with Hutch. Happy goaltending, everybody, and we'll talk to you next week on InGoal Radio, the podcast.